So all I'm saying, man, is that if they had let Howard Stark uh, finish his vision of the arc reactor, we wouldn't be here, man.
I think you're right, man. I think so.
No, I honestly, man. I mean, okay, not honestly, because Howard Stark is a fictional character. But you know what? Actually, I have to say, so I've been rewatching the Marvel movies, but
Hmm.
in the oh, real quick, I can still hear myself on your feed, pretty heavy.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Let me do a quick switcheroony. That's my fault. I was actually very much just vibing for a moment, but we're going to switch over.
Dude, you won't believe this, but Facebook just correctly closed captioned switcheroony.
That's amazing, actually.
I know. I'm like, how? Um,
Give
yeah,
me
you
a
sound a little
second.
distant too, just so you know.
Oh yeah, no worries, no worries. I'm gonna fix all of this in one foul swoop, man. It's gonna
Foul
be
swoop, you
amazing.
say?
Yeah, a
Like.
whole foul swoop.
Speaking of foul swoops and roosters, man.
Look at
You
that.
guys,
Good to go.
oh, that's beautiful. It sounds clean. Wow, that's really good.
See,
Speaking of
sound a lot
foul
better,
swoops
don't
and roosters, man, if you haven't seen the new Top Gun,
I? I
I
have
can't.
not.
Oh, I can't, bro. Listen to me. I this is coming from a guy who thought the first one was cheesy. Okay, I'm not being a. This movie, in my opinion, is the finest contribution to film that I may have ever seen that's come out in my lifetime.
Wow.
Asterisk, that's come out in my lifetime. Um, I've never seen anything like this, bro. I mean, everything, all of the jet action was real. None of it was faked. Everything with them in a cockpit was really them in a cockpit pulling 4, 5, 6 Gs.
Mm-hmm.
It is just the action. It's edge of your seat stuff, man. And I literally
Ooh.
like it's so incredible, and the storyline is genuinely good. And I thought, okay, Tom Cruise doesn't make bad movies anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
he also writes them with this guy Christopher McQuarrie, and specifically with the Mission Impossible movies. But they were doing the opening credits for this Top Gun, and it was the two of them. They wrote this one, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. And
Yeah, there you go.
it was, dude. It was awesome. I literally there's a lot of tiebacks to Top Gun, but I don't know, it's kind of a hot take, but when Star Wars came back a few years ago
Mm-hmm.
with like episode 7 in particular was just straight nostalgia station, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like so forced, like so unnecessary. Um this did not feel forced, and they wrote it very well. They wrote it very well. Um, he'd been spending all these years being a test pilot, and thus, they kind of make him like this Chuck Yeager character, which
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Yeager was a test pilot for the Air Force until he was like in his 50s, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, and so he tested the SR-71 Blackbird. He did all that. Well, that's what uh, Pete is doing. That's Tom Cruise's character, Maverick,
Mm-hmm.
is testing an SR-72 Blackbird,
Ooh.
which we looked that up, right? That's
Yeah.
actually in real life it's a UAV, right? It's unmanned.
I believe that is what they are going for.
Yeah.
That it's going to be a UAV so that way it can reach the speeds that they are going for.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's well, let's look at this. Is the SR-72 Dark Star real? Um so this plays like a big part. Uh wow, so Lockheed Martin wouldn't confirm or deny that this plane's actually in development.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But it's a hypersonic jet. In the movie they take it up to 10 Mach 10.
That's
Um
insane.
yeah. But that part obviously is fake. That part's
Yeah.
not right. But so it's not UAV, it's an actual fighter, or would be a reconnaissance jet. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so that was cool. Like that's grip. But let me tell you, the rest of the movie like happened, and then it rolled the credits, and it was like special thanks to Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and I was like, oh yeah, they did that at the beginning. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
how good of a movie this is. That I forgot that happened. You know? So man, I don't want to give it away, but I cannot recommend Top Gun Maverick highly enough. That is absolutely one of the finest films I've seen. Blake Ellis, friend of the show, he went and saw it because he loves 80s things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he was like, oh man, the original is so 80s, and he loves that. He has the nostalgia vibe, but he went and saw it and he was like, dude, that's one of the best movies I've ever seen. He's like, I want to fly a plane now. And he's like, I don't even care about this stuff. I just want to fly a plane now. So can't recommend it highly enough. I had to say that. Bro, I'm dead. I know you know I love Tom Cruise as an actor, but I'm telling you, man, it's not about that. You gotta
It's the
see this
story,
movie.
man.
You gotta see it. Man, if you come up here and haven't seen it,
We're gonna
mm,
see it. We're gonna watch
we're gonna see it.
it.
But also, it's been out for almost 2 weeks now, and theaters have still been packed every single night, which has been
Yeah,
fantastic. It's very
that
cool.
is that's really really amazing, especially because theaters are still recovering from like COVID and stuff like that, or really the past 2 years. So
Yeah, and that's why they hung on to releasing this for so long. But Blake went and saw in Nashville, of course, but on a Tuesday night at 7:30, and he was like, "There were only 4 seats left when I bought my ticket." It was
that's
at an
crazy.
AMC. I know, it was awesome. So you love to see it. Yeah, I don't again want to spoil it if people haven't seen it yet. But what I was
Hmm.
gonna say was, speaking of Howard Stark, I've been rewatching the Marvel movies
Hmm.
in chronological order with which the events happen. So how that works
Mm.
is like Captain America's first because it took
Hmm.
place in the 40s, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, then uh, uh,
Well,
what's
Captain
oh
Marvel.
Captain Marvel's next, yeah, because it's the 90s. Then there's Iron Man,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So there's Iron Man, there's Iron Man 2, and then there's the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, okay.
And I knew because I was watching the Incredible Hulk, and I was like, the only way they can prove this happened after Iron Man 2 is if they have a cameo with Robert Downey Jr., right?
Hmm.
And they do at the very end of it. And he's like, we're getting a team together, which is the last scene of Iron Man 2 is Nick Fury telling him that, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, it's been really cool the longer I've gone on doing it this way to see how that all ties differently. And you
Hmm.
understand stuff better. Like we were watching Hulk, right? And first of all, what a god awful movie.
Well, so wait, did you watch The Incredible Hulk or Hulk?
It was, I think it was
It had to
called
be
the
The
Incredible.
Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, because it had, um,
Because you know there was two.
well, there
Like,
was the one that came out in '03 that
yeah.
wasn't directly tied to these, and then
Yeah,
there
that
was
was
this.
a garbage movie.
Yeah, this was less garbage, but still garbage. It's
Okay.
2008. Yeah, I just found it redonkulous, and on top of that, like if that was the first one of these series of movies, right? And I went and saw that, I'd be like, I'm not watching any of the rest of these. Like, what is this? And that's the thing is like, it was so cool understanding this in the context with which it happened, right?
Hmm.
For chronological purposes. But if you were to watch that first before all the others, it wouldn't make any sense. They like, if if you didn't read the comics, right? It wouldn't make
Yeah.
any sense. Like they ordered these weapons to try and stop Hulk because they don't have the backstory in there, just kind of pick up on him in hiding, which is cool.
Hmm.
But they order their weapons from Stark Industries, right? Which that is the only fallacy in the timeline because technically by that point, Tony had stopped making weapons, right, with Stark
Yeah.
Industries. So, but they purchased those weapons. They oh man, what was the other thing? Oh, they are working alongside Shield,
Hmm.
right? And then they bring back this weapons program from the 40s that basically creates a super soldier to try and give this guy the ability to stop Hulk, right?
Yeah.
So it's tied to Nick Fury, it's tied to Iron Man, it's tied to Captain America. But you have that context watching in chronological order, but otherwise you're just like, what? What's even going on right now?
Hmm.
And so then they're just like, well, what happens if you combine the gamma radiation with that super serum? And then that guy becomes like the meanest dude of all time. But
Hmm.
like, you don't understand why that is a potent combo. You know what I mean? It just seems
Hmm.
cheesy. But then if you understand like the power of the Tesseract and then the power of the gamma radiation, like with that context, you're like, oh, I get it. You know,
Yeah, you're like, okay, this makes more sense then.
yeah, but it's still not a great movie, dude.
Yeah.
And Edward, man, they cut the whole cast from that film.
Yeah, they did. Well, no, other than the general, they didn't cut the general guy.
Oh, was
Forgot
he
what
in
his name
another
is.
movie? I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, he was in Avengers after that.
He was in Avengers. Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah. So he they kept him, but yeah, the Hulk guy, if I'm not
Edward Norton.
mistaken, he had like a dispute with like a bunch of people. Apparently, he wanted to because he had already at that point been directing movies, and so he
Oh,
felt like he was a better fit for directing and showing like how things should have been or whatever like that. And so Marvel was just like, nah, bro, we're good.
yeah,
They dropped him for Mark Ruffalo.
yeah. I don't need Edward Norton playing Hulk. But you know what's crazy too is like Mark Ruffalo doesn't show up until Avengers. So a
Yep.
whole 4 years later, he's like, wait a minute, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah.
And
Maybe
I
they were
think
just hoping people would notice.
well, right, yeah, they look. Oh, I mean, they're both white guys. You can't tell them apart.
Yeah.
But like, that was my that's probably why I never, for many of my high school years, tied those in as those two movies being, or as Hulk being part of the Marvel timeline
Hmm.
because it was a different actor.
Hmm.
I never seen it. This is the first time I ever watched it. So yeah, I was like, ugh, I don't know, rocky start for sure. And I agree with you. I want watching the first Captain America and even watching the first Iron Man. I'm like, this is just all the superhero movie stereotypes right here. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Marvel was still trying to get in their groove and try to figure out like what works and what doesn't, and it's a little cringy.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, you get past that. Iron Man 2 is a good movie.
Oh yeah, no, that's a
That's a
good movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. Um, and then yeah, I think next up chronologically is Thor, and
Mm.
then after that's
Yep.
Avengers.
Yep.
Yeah. So and then technically after that is Loki, but I want to blow
Well,
your brains out.
well, I mean, I guess technically yes. Yeah, I guess you're right. Technically, because all of that span, but I mean, technically, you could also use Loki in its own little thing because
It's
it's
devoid of
kind.
time.
Yeah, exactly. So it can kind of slide in wherever. But if you wanted to follow, no, actually, you can't. It's not. It's not after. It wouldn't be Loki after Avengers because it still has because you still need Infinity in Endgame to happen. Because
No, but
remember, Endgame is when the split happens, and then that's where that guy gets birthed. That version of Loki gets birthed from. Oh, I guess technically, spoiler alert.
wait, what?
Yeah, because that version of Loki that is in the Loki TV series isn't the same version of Loki that we saw die at the end of Endgame. Or
Well,
sorry, at the very beginning of Infinity War.
well,
Because they went back in time, remember, in Endgame,
yeah.
and they stole the Tesseract.
Oh,
Or no, they did it twice. Sorry, they went back in time twice. So they went back the first time, they had a kerfuddle, and it ended up where Loki got the Tesseract back and poofed himself away. That's when you
right.
get the start of technically the Loki TV series.
But that wasn't back in time. That was just this is what happened after the Avengers movie, right?
No, no, because remember the Avengers End Game, they had to go back in time to get the Infinity Stones because the gauntlet, blew up.
No, no, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they had to go back in time.
Yeah.
That Loki, or the first time that they went back in time, they went back all the way to the very beginning, to the very, the first Avengers thing.
Right.
And it was right after they captured Loki. And they had a kerfuddle, right? And
Right.
the stone, or the daggum tesseract or whatever like that, flopped out, and then Loki grabbed it, and then he poofed away, and then they had to go back in time to a different time to so that way they could fix it. Remember?
Yeah.
They went back to that point in time twice. The first time they were unsuccessful. The second time they were successful.
Let me just say it to you like this. I get what you're saying. It's kind of still hard for me to wrap my brain around, but I perceived the first episode of Loki to be everything happened in Avengers, and this is what happened when he steals the Tesseract. He gets called a variant. He gets taken into the TVA, and then they show him how his life plays out after that. They show him everything that he does, right? Which is all of those things that happened, including him getting killed by Thanos.
Yeah, but
And
if
so,
or sorry, go ahead.
well, no, and so I don't know where really he falls getting back on that timeline yet because there was a major cliffhanger at the end of season one.
Well, yeah, but I guess that's what I was trying to say, though. That's why I didn't think, because I feel like if you're watching in chronological order, right, and say you've never watched the Marvel movies, you would actually be getting a huge spoiler if you would have watched Loki right after the first Avengers,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You wouldn't want to do
because
that.
you would lose a huge, you would get essentially what happens throughout, like, Thor 2 and all sorts of other crap.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I wouldn't say put the Loki TV series there too, is because I feel like it belongs more. Plus, it also makes more sense on how he became, or why that makes more sense on why he's a variant, because of the meddling of the timelines, which you don't learn about until you get to Endgame.
Mm, yeah. Okay. No, I get that. I get that. Okay. Because I'm sorry, I was just looking this up.
No worries. No
So
worries.
it's interesting. It says
Oh, and
Loki.
by the way, guys, this isn't a Marvel thing.
It's not.
We just kind of got
Yeah.
on this topic.
Yeah. We should probably get to our actual topic. Yeah, Disney put Loki after Avengers Endgame on the timeline of it all. It's
Okay.
interesting. Yeah. Huh.
See?
Huh. It's interesting. All
Told
right.
you.
Well, no, I know. I mean, yeah, it's just honestly, as soon as you go to a dimension that's devoid of time, everything gets really confusing. your
That is
perception,
very true.
yeah, your perception of everything gets really confusing. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit record here. Okay. All right. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Man, I don't know what we're gonna do about this. It's getting hard for me to drive. Um,
Mm.
man, these gas prices, man. I don't know. Everybody's talking about it for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's just kind of a reverse limbo. How high can they go?
Yeah, yeah, man. It's crazy. It really is, because um I mean, happily I don't drive that much, so filling up, but I mean, I can usually get away with not filling up, or only filling up like, once a month or something like that. So that's not a huge hit for me, but still it's really high. Like, I mean, I just filled up today, and I think I paid like 75 bucks essentially. Or no, it was technically 76.
Sure.
76 bucks to get a full tank. Now that
Okay.
was probably from E, but still.
Right.
That's what that was 16 gallons.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. That's
it is
crazy.
crazy. It is. I mean, my truck, man, and I know we talked about this a little bit, but it would be closer to, if I was filling up from almost empty, be
Hmm.
closer to 125, you know.
Oh gosh, which is insane. Like it's a for some people that's actually like a car payment.
I know, yeah. For if you extend out your payments enough, yeah.
Hmm.
I it's I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in. I think a lot of people are finding themselves here of, we didn't think we'd ever get here.
Yeah.
And it's just so crazy because not too many moons ago, it was like 270, 260.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and now it's nearly doubled that for the national average. And by the time this episode comes out for our audio friends, who knows where it could be? Who
Yeah.
knows how high this thing could be? I don't know.
Yeah, and I know, I think it was the CEO of Exxon put out a statement the other day saying that they don't expect gas prices to um, go down anytime soon. I think he actually said until the end of the year,
Mhm.
I think at the earliest, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
It is crazy. And that's actually what we want to talk about a little bit on this episode is when can you expect gas prices to go down? When can you expect it to be more affordable? Is now the time to buy an electric vehicle? Um, and, interesting timing with that as well, the push of electric vehicles and then gas prices
Hmm.
skyrocket. But the U.S. didn't start the war in Ukraine either. So
Yeah.
it's just weird. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. And, just interest. I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts. There's emotional thoughts. There's physical thoughts. There's the emotional side of it that we just went through this pandemic, and everybody's like, "Oh man, let's go out, let's live life, let's vacation, let's do stuff." And we're still in the pandemic, I get, but like from a societal approach, we came out of the pandemic, right?
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, it's like, well, now it's too expensive to drive anywhere, you
Yep.
know. Um, and that is very tough. And so there's that emotional side of it, and then there's just the financial side of it. You have to budget every time you drive. Can I afford to drive?
Yeah.
you know
Exactly.
I love to go for little drives or maybe take a scenic route home just to switch it up every day. I
Same.
can't do that. I go to the gym, I go home. I go to work, I go home.
Yeah.
you know it's crazy. So there's a lot for us to analyze, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, man.
Okay.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is the catch up. I forgot to do this last week, man.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I know. I was like, oh shoot. I
Yeah.
saw that.
The only
That's
bad part about having a 1080p camera is it gets all of the bumps.
everything shows up, man.
These are all stress acnes right here.
I
Man, it's all stress
know the
acne.
feeling.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. 3, 2, 1. All right, before we jump into our topic, we want to let you know the 3 best ways that you can support us. First of all, the easiest way is to leave us a rating review and subscribe if you like us. It really helps us to know how we're doing, what you think of the show, and it also tells the algorithms that people are reacting to this show. So, and that helps us out immensely. So, wherever you're listening, whether it's on audio, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on YouTube, we're live streaming on both of those right now. Leave a rating or subscribe. And then, if you are on our live stream, that's another great way to support us. You can interact with us in real time. And in fact, we encourage it. We want to hear your opinions on any of the topics that we're talking about. We want to have this real time back and forth conversation with all of you. Um, and then the last way to support us is if you want to support us financially, the last 3 easiest ways. I should have just said it that way. Here's 3 easy ways to support the Catch Up Podcast. Third is to go to our website, nosignalrocks.com. There's a drop down menu for the Ketchup Podcast, or it's linked wherever you're listening to this, and you can find all of our merch and apparel in one spot, which means you get something out of it. And I think there's some pretty cool somethings. So, which hopefully too, man, we'll get a new lineup on the way here shortly too. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Anyway, check all of that out. But yeah, let's jump back into our topic. These high gas prices, man.
Yeah, man.
It's a problem, and I know a lot of times with this show we try to talk about trending topics that are impacting a lot of people, but you don't necessarily hear on the beaten path. But I think this is one
Yeah.
that's unavoidable. We have to talk about the gas prices, and man, it was funny you mentioned it. Like, we need to talk about this. It just hit me today of like the stress from that, of
Mm-hmm.
prices. But really, I remember we talked about the semiconductor shortage, and we talked about the supply chain shortage. And shout out to you on both those suggestions. And I was like, man, really? Why? Blah, blah. It is impacting every aspect of every part of our life. Even I saw the other day women beauty products. Yeah,
Hmm.
well, and even women's self care products too. Um, Prices have skyrocketed because of supply chain issues. So
Wow.
you compound that with the things that we're doing to Ukraine, and
Mm-hmm.
well, not to Ukraine, but in
The
reaction
sanctions.
to the sanctions. Yes, thank you. Um, Man, it's just a lot, and it's really adding up on impact on the pocketbook. And so I think, you know, okay, so chicken wings are too expensive right now. I'm not gonna buy chicken wings as much as it
Mm-hmm.
pains me to say it, but you know, driving is unavoidable
Yeah.
for
It's
uh,
necessary for
yeah,
many.
majority of our population. It's unavoidable. And even if you don't drive, which I imagine most of our listeners do, but even if you didn't, you take public transit, the cost of that's still going to go up. You take um, an Uber, right? The cost of that's going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, and maybe incrementally, but still it will. And maybe you're saying, well, John, my bus is hydrogen powered. Okay, who delivered that hydrogen though?
Yeah.
It was a gas powered semi, most likely. You
Yeah.
know,
Exactly.
and so, or a diesel powered one. And so it just it this is literally, I don't think you can overstate how bad this is.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you hit the nail on the head, especially when it comes to shipping, right? I can expect as gas prices continue to rise, because it's gas and diesel prices that are rising, um, that we will start to see that pop up in our transportation fees,
Yeah.
right? Because it now is more expensive, or now it's becoming more and more expensive for any of these goods to be transferred out. Like, especially for Amazon, like I wouldn't be too surprised if we start to see some of the low prices that we've been seeing with Amazon go up, or their membership for Prime to go up, um, to try and adjust for the expenses, right? For the
Cool.
increase in gas prices and such.
Well, do you also think that that's why they're pushing their drones so much?
Yeah, no, I think so. As well as Amazon already has an order in with Rivian, who we've talked about a couple times on the podcast before,
Yeah.
where they're creating um, electric vans for them
Oh, very cool.
to do their travels and stuff like that. So they have like actually a really big order. I think it's like 2,000 or 1,000 electric vans that they want to start. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of small, but especially for a startup like Rivian, who is still relatively new when it comes to all of this, that's pretty big, though.
Yeah, it is, and that's an interesting thing that you brought up too. Rivian is a competitor to Tesla,
Hmm.
and Jeff Bezos is a competitor to Elon Musk, right?
Yep.
And so it is interesting that he's not partnering with Tesla for this project. He's partnering with Rivian. But you have to imagine at some point, if that goes well, do you think Amazon tries to buy out Rivian? I could see it.
I mean, they are actually one of Rivian's biggest backers. So I could see that them and Ford actually. When Rivian was really early in the process of building their latest truck, um, they it was Ford and Amazon who were their biggest backers to kind of help push them along or whatever like that. So I really wouldn't be too surprised if, as Rivian gains more following and kind of gets better, um, I could easily see Amazon going to try and just scoop them up, because then, yeah, you could use them for their fleet. You now have also a customer facing version of cars, which is
Sure.
probably one of the last frontiers that Amazon hasn't tackled.
Well, that's why I was,
So,
because you have Google is developing an autonomous car supposedly.
mhm,
Apple is.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, Tesla has its thing, and these are like three of the big four in tech, right? You're telling me that Amazon's just not going to get involved in that?
yeah,
You know, I mean, good and well they will. Um, that's interesting, man. Yeah, I feel like Ford was sharing technology with Rivian, right? They
yep,
were like, yeah, and
yeah. It
and
was helping them develop the F-150
Lightning.
Lightning.
Yeah, yeah. So these are the things, though, that really get me. So I think we all kind of thought, you know what, $4 a gallon, we can bear that because we've been conditioned to it before after Katrina and all that.
Hmm.
But $5 a gallon is new territory, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know fully how to budget for that. Of course, if you're on the live stream, we want to hear what you are doing to adjust for the
Hmm.
high prices and whatnot. But you
Plus,
know,
that's in our areas. That's the thing. There are
right?
places like California where the gas prices are even higher than that. I think I saw something where they're around $8 or something like that, or in the
Yeah.
mid eights, which is insane. Like,
Oh,
how
I
do
know.
you afford that?
Well, even when I was out there in November, this is um, oh god, Humboldt County, which is
Hmm.
northern California, and stopped at a gas station. Sure enough, man, I want to say it was 485. This is in November of last year, dude.
Man.
That's just something they deal with. You know,
Hmm.
it's kind of hard to imagine. But the thing about it is, like, I will say this because we were joking about this off camera, um, or before we went live. For those who think this is part of a conspiracy to push people to buying electric cars, since the big three are pushing this and they
Hmm.
are, you know, very lobby centric in Washington.
Yeah.
Here's my thought on this, man. I don't think that is the case. I don't think there's any level of conspiracy there because here's the thing: the supply chain shortages and the chip shortages. There's barely enough cars on the lot as is, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then even if there were enough, they're out of sight price. People can't afford them.
Yeah, exactly. And they're also dealing with dealership markups, which makes
Yeah.
it even more out of price, right? And the dealers are already having a hard time trying to lock down or stop that happening. So, like, yeah, why would they try to orchestrate something that would push people towards something that, one, they can't afford already, which could cause a lot of issues um, and problems with brand reputation. And then also, there's just, yeah, there's too many factors.
Well, and that's really my biggest concern with it is, worst case scenario, gas prices continue to go up and I make the decision I have to get something, I have to find an alternative, right? I can't keep driving
Hmm.
this big V8 motor and getting this terrible gas. It's not terrible gas mileage, but like by today's standards, it's not good.
Yeah,
Um, and what do I do? I mean, what's the answer? you know,
yeah, that's
um,
true.
you can't. I mean, electric is the answer now, but only and we've talked a lot about this year. It's interesting because we try to keep the topics varied on here, but we this keeps coming up. It keeps coming up for a reason, right? This has been a
Yeah.
rapidly developing topic this year more so than ever. Um, and it's something that, of course, that we're interested in. But electric's the answer right now, just because of um, costs. Like, okay, let's say, for example, hypothetically, me driving to see you from where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
round trip, I spend $250 in gas, right?
Yeah.
Plausible. But then if I had an electric vehicle, charge it, it would take longer, but $40 maybe in
Maybe.
electricity
Yeah.
charges.
Somewhere around there. Maybe
Yeah.
40, 50.
I, I mean, it's not even close, you know?
Yeah.
It's the thing. It's not even close. So it's like, what I what do you do? But then again, we go back to, where are you going to find one that's affordable? Where are you going to find one
Yep.
that's in good shape?
Yep.
And it's, I don't know,
And you're not getting price gouged,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of dealerships are going to probably start grabbing a lot of these because the used car market in general, right, is already in where it is right now. So yeah, dealerships are going to still grab more of these. And so they're going to put these at outrageous prices to try to offset the costs that they're not able to get with when it comes to other inventory, right? So yeah, it's like how as a consumer do you do that? Like how do you just cough up, especially too when you're already dealing with inflation, right?
Yeah.
Inflation on everyday goods, right? Your food, your just normal care items or whatever like that. All of this is going up. So it's like how are you supposed to also now save up money, right? And buy a new car because in some cases you're paying, within a month you could be, because that's the other thing, right? If someone is commuting, right, and they have the vehicles that have been sold for the last, I don't know, easily 5 years, that have okay gas mileage but not the best, right? Any of the SUVs or anything like that have, gas mileage in the 20s, and you're consistently driving around, you could end up with a gas bill as much as your car payment,
Oh yeah.
which is
It is
crazy to think of.
it is crazy to think of. Yeah, I don't know. It's just there's no way out in sight. And so I looked this up. This is a CNBC article, which of course is a reliable source for finance and stuff. And
Yeah.
coincidentally, I think this is the second time this month that we've used it, or in the past 4 weeks we've used CNBC as a reference. Um, anyway, some economists predict that food and energy prices will level off and the supply chain problems will dissipate in the, again, not too distant future. Uh, so I guess prices could drop all of a sudden, is what I'm reading here. But as far as when that would happen, um, it will average, inflation would average 1.5%. We're at like 5.2% right now,
Mm-hmm.
or just about 6% right now, actually, which is high. That's really high.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
it would slow down to 1.5% to between 2023 and 2025. So uh, this year will be the worst for inflation, and then prices could go down by next year. Next year. So we're in this for a long haul. So yeah, the
Yeah.
thing about this is like it will go down soon, but that's in the grand scheme of the economy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I know that there was an article from the president of, or the statement that was put out from the president of Exxon
Yeah,
that was talking about gas prices. And he was saying that he expect them to continue to rise until the end of the year,
sure.
and and it's just kind of crazy to think that I guess the biggest thing that I find that's really interesting is that all of this triggered right from um,
Or sanctions on Russia.
yeah, the sanctions, us trying to, because it's essentially the whole point of the sanctions were to to hopefully speed up the end of the war as quickly as possible, right? It's to it would hurt us for a little bit, and then it would but it would have a quick or much quicker outcome than saying boots on the ground or any sorts of other non-diplomatic processes, right?
Sure.
um and so it's kind of crazy because I was thinking about this the other day, is that like, is there a point, is there a tipping point, which I feel like there is. I feel like $6 a gallon is a tipping point. I think I saw something that said like most economists feel like somewhere $6 or 5.50 a dollar or a gallon for gas is a tipping point for a recession. So it makes me
Really?
wonder. Yeah, so they were linking. Now of course there's been so many speculations because the market is such in such a weird area right now.
Yeah.
um but they said that somewhere around the $5 to $6 mark is a recession territory, or
Why?
could be things that could trigger a recession when it comes to gas prices.
So, no, I don't want to cut you off. I just want to
No,
interject
no
something
worries.
real quick. That is because um, people would stop driving and stop shopping, and
Yep.
okay, yeah, there'd be less money in flowing into the economy, and so it'd cause a recession on that capacity. Okay, all right,
Yeah. Yeah, because right now, I think most economists are finding, which is really weird, they're finding it weird, is that usually when there's high inflation, consumers tend to pull back, right? So then that means there's less money flowing or whatever like that. But currently, the way that the gas prices have been and the inflation has been, consumers haven't been um, pulled back as much as they predicted. And so that's the reason why we're in this weird bubble or area that we're in right now, is
sure,
because people haven't pulled back. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of people were able to save a ton during the height of the pandemic. And now that they're kind of a little bit more open, right?
mm,
We're a little bit more open where people have a lot more money to spend and use and move. um, but I kind of feel like, yeah, once we hit that $5 mark, that $6 mark, people really do get to a point to where there's no point in driving anymore,
oh yeah, well,
or I'm only driving for necessity.
yeah, and that's the thing. So I was thinking about this. It is a bummer. I'm getting ready for all these great opportunities musically. But you know what? Beyond that, I don't want to make it about that necessarily. But more than that, I just love seeing people out and enjoying those kind of things.
Yeah,
And so I just happen to have that part as well. But it's like all these things are coming up, and then you're looking at like, will people actually go out and drive?
yeah,
For that. So far, again, I haven't noticed a change in it. But also it just went like a 50-cent jump this week, you
yeah,
know?
it did.
So I mean that's insane. I just to be so dependent, I don't know. Our just infrastructure is so dependent on one fuel source.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
it's crazy.
that is the crazy part, and that's the sad part too, is that it's the sad part, I think, is too, is that we're not, there's a difference between being so dependent on a resource that but you can switch quickly. But the problem is that we technically can't switch quickly. A lot of
Yeah.
people are like, oh well, you can go electric and blah blah blah, but the problem is that we can only go electric to a certain point. When I believe there's a certain threshold for for the amount of customers or the amount of people to have electric vehicles, to where it will put too much of a strain on our grid, which is old and does require a lot of maintenance in general.
Yeah.
that it may not be able, that it will exceed the capacity of the grid.
Yeah.
And then at that point, right, then we're having other issues, right? Because it's like now we have too many people on electricity, and how to fix that is a long process.
Yeah.
And if you overload the grid, that's a problem because you're down for a lot longer too. It's not
Mm.
just like, oh man, we're out of power. It's like, oh man, we're doing rolling blackouts, or oh man, a whole city got shut down for a week because they're having to fix power lines or something like that,
Yeah.
or like a whole transformer station, and it takes a long time to do that.
Hmm. Yeah. And that is the thing, that our infrastructure, like you said, not planned out or prepared for everyone to go full electric. It's just, I don't know. I'm a very much trying to find the silver lining in these situations. I just can't right now. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't right now. And the idea that it's only going to get worse. I mean, what are people going to do? I don't know. You know what? Actually, I'll say this. Um, and then I have a question to follow it up with. I
Hmm.
think that if this happened 2 years ago, pre pandemic, that people would stop going out, you know, and be,
Hmm.
but people are so eager to not let anything hold them back now
Yeah.
that they're going to spend that more money to drive. Now, people have, last time the gas was $4 a gallon, the average fuel economy was not nearly as good as it is now for the car industry, right?
Yeah.
But man, so that helps. I think that is a benefit. But I do think that that plays a factor. People don't want to get stuck at home. They're going to do anything to avoid it. But the next question I was going to ask really was,
Hmm.
these predictions, all of them are irrelevant, right? If um, we release our more of our strategic reserves of oil,
Yep.
or if we, which I don't know why we're not, no, whatever. Um, but also if, Russia pulls out of Ukraine and the sanctions and all that, that could all change, right?
Yep. Yep. That was actually something that I had started pondering, is would us getting close to that limit, right? That limit of hitting a recession or something like that, or even us hitting a recession, would that trigger a laxing of the sanctions that we have with Russia? Would we just say, "Hey, I, you know what? We'll look the other way while you do stuff with Ukraine, but we just kind of need your gas." So,
Yeah.
because that's the other thing, right? It's not because that's Russia holds, the annoying part about Russia is that they hold a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Um, Gas is one of the big ones, right, for oil, and they are building up more and more oil or whatever like that because no one's buying. But it's not just that. They have, I think they're like the breadbasket of the of
Europe.
Asia or something like that, or
Yeah.
Europe or
Well,
whatever.
yeah, in Asia. Yeah. Hmm.
um, which is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
That's another sanction that's already happening and that's already causing issues. They are big on natural gas as well, which is really big for Europe as well. So it really makes me wonder, like, how long can we really keep these sanctions up for, to make sure that the economy doesn't just explode
Yeah.
because, you know, because we can't do anything, right? It's these resources are things that we have become reliant on, because it's not even, I forgot, it's not even like food, right? It's not even just food. Some of the resources that Russia has is required for manufacturing of electric vehicles,
Oh,
like
yeah.
nickel
Right. Right.
production,
Yeah. Exactly.
which is a really key ingredient in batteries.
Mm.
So again, it's like there's so many, I don't know, there's like so many things. It's like we're trying to do the right thing and not letting certain things happen, but like where's the limit for us? And it's
Yeah.
not me saying we should lack sanctions, because I don't think we should, but it's like, what's the next step? This
Mhm.
isn't If this isn't working, what's the next step to try and remediate the issues? Because if we tank the economy, and the problem is that the world's economy is very
Relying on
connected.
us. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's relying on us, but that's the thing, right? Even if we don't go down, if another country goes down, right, somewhere in Europe or whatever like that, because I know that, what's it, uh, darn, I know UK's inflation prices have actually started to go up too,
Oh,
or they're
sure.
starting to actually deal with some big stuff like that. What happens when we start getting a trickle? That we start getting like a chain reaction, right? Of all these high inflation, high fuel prices, all sorts of stuff like that, that it just becomes a domino effect. Like, are we willing to put the world's, well, put the potential of putting the world's economy into a recession to make sure that the sanctions continue?
Right, which that's why I think it would be a group reaction, to whatever we decide to do. If we do decide to lack sanctions, it would be a group discussion with NATO and the EU and things like that because of that exact reason, the impact on everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But man, what if Putin was playing the long game the whole time? Like, you know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. That'd be crazy. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised. He's been quiet.
I mean, he's incredibly smart too, he's not an
He is.
idiot.
He
Um,
is. He's at
not trying to
ex KB, uh,
KGB.
KGB. So.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm not trying to sound like Donald Trump, but he is a really he is. And that doesn't make him a good guy, but
Well, yeah.
uh I don't know. It makes you wonder if this was part of the plan and it's going to put people in a tough position to say, hey, how do we keep this from happening? Because, man, just think about that. We relax sanctions on Russia. Um, and then, I don't know, you go to bed and you wake up and like gas is 75 cents cheaper, you know.
Hmm.
I don't know. Lara is jumping in on the live stream and she says solar power is looking nicer and nicer if it was more easily accessible.
Mm.
Um, and I think it just depends on, I don't know. I guess it would depend on what you mean by easily accessible.
Yeah.
Um, because as far as getting being able to afford it, that's one thing. A lot of states though they do reimbursement stuff for
Yep.
it, like
Yep. There's also a federal tax credit for it as well.
yeah, exactly. The state of Kansas has its own tax credit for installing solar power. Um, and yeah, I mean, you can just live off the land. I mean, Tesla has its giga pack batteries, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can
Where,
get a battery pack, that can power your home while, low sunlight is going on, or even overnight where there is no sunlight.
mhm.
If installed properly and everything kind of works, yes, that is a possibility there that can
Yeah.
work out really well.
So what? Although I'm thinking she was probably meaning solar power for cars.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's true too.
Which
You know,
there is a car company that's working on something actually like that. It's
still,
wild. Yeah, yeah. So there's essentially what it would be is that it's wild looking or whatever like that, but it's an electric car still, right? And it does have a battery, but it also has this the whole roof of the car is solar panels, and they're very efficient solar panels. So the thought process is that you would, drive wherever you need to go, you park it, right? It's supposed to be able to um, essentially recharge the batteries with the amount of solar energy that it collects. Because for the longest time, solar panel on cars has just been enough to. It's only been enough. They're only getting enough power to like do the HVAC system or other like accessories, but not
yeah,
like the full powering of the car.
sure, yeah. She says, definitely was talking about cars. LOL, lacking some sleep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured as much. No, I don't know. I still know what the answer is. I wanted to say Tesla. There was a Tesla, was there not, where they had the panoramic sunroof and it had uh, solar cells in there, isn't there?
No, it might have been a prototype at one point, but no, there
Oh,
was not.
okay.
There wasn't one.
Well, yeah, at this point for development and
It
stuff
was a
like that.
Hyundai that had that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, no, it's just at this point, development for stuff like that is too little, too late.
Yeah,
Not gonna be able to get the supplies for it. It's gonna cost $1 million,
no.
and it's not gonna fix the immediate problem here and now. So it's like, what do you do, right? Do you ride your bike to work? I would if I didn't live so far from work. uh, you know,
Yeah,
uh, do you buy a motorcycle? Do you trade in for a Corolla that gets like 35 miles a gallon, right?
yeah, or hybrids, right? I think
Right.
I've heard that a lot of people are turning to, because a lot of people are still, leery about a lot of the downsides or some of the downsides that come with electric vehicles, like fully electric vehicles. So people are moving more over to like hybrids and plug-in hybrids. So it's like you
Yeah.
move more over to those.
Right. Which would be,
Those would be a little bit cheaper too, because there's more of them on the market,
yeah,
especially the used market.
there is. And I think people now are just thinking straight electric rather than thinking hybrid this or hybrid that, right?
Yeah,
That they just want to go full electric. I would rather do a hybrid thing for pricing, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But
same.
yeah, just for pricing. But it's I don't know. It's tough. It's very disheartening. I don't want to see gas prices continue to go up. I don't want to wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden I see 5.19 at my gas station, right?
Yeah, no, I don't want that either. That'd be
Yeah,
terrible.
4.89 on the way home. It's like, dang. Um, yeah. And we live again, like you mentioned, we lived in the good parts. We live in the good parts of the
Yeah,
country where gas is cheapest. Um, Man, everywhere else is just like, if I saw a five on the board, I would be like, I don't want to go anywhere, man. You know?
yeah, yeah, same.
Yeah. I mean,
It would, I'd have to make sure that I'd plan out my trips, right? So it's
yeah.
like I'm going from this place to this place to this place. Um, and it I need to make sure that I'm doing everything in one trip instead of having to go back and forth and stuff like that. And that's the other thing too, is it's the summertime, right? So especially in Texas, you need to have your AC on, which also lowers your fuel economy.
Oh, yes. Sure. Sure.
So that's also another thing. But
Denison and I, before we went live, we were talking about motorcycles and electric motorcycles and things like that.
mhm,
And I looked it up, and there was an entry level Honda that was $4,700. Great, brand new. These are brand new bikes we're talking about.
yeah,
And then there was an entry level. I forget what that company was, but they make all electric bikes.
hmm,
And look at actually, I don't know if it was entry level, but it was an equivalent level bike because it
yeah,
was like a cruiser or whatever. And it was $12,000 for this electric bike. That's how much of the demand is for stuff like that now.
yeah,
Also, again, the supply chain shortages and the semiconductor shortages and all that. But it's also playing off the demand.
yep, it is.
Yeah, and I am not gonna spend that. That's a dude. I could put a great down payment on a car for that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah. No, you could, you really could. Like it's too much. That's what it is.
yeah. So I don't know. I just don't know how. I mean, we just have to ride it out. Be tactful with when we drive, uh,
Hmm.
where we're driving to. You know, um, and just making the most of each trip. It's annoying, but it's
Yeah,
necessary. I was talking with somebody today. They were asking me about growing up in Texas, and I said, oh yeah, I go down there all the time and visit. And then they're like, do you drive or do you fly? And I was like, well, I used to fly. Then flying became too expensive.
Yep.
And then I drove, but now driving's too expensive.
Yep.
So I'm like, can they just finish the rail?
Yeah, exactly. Get that rail going.
Yeah, finish that Amtrak from Wichita to Austin, really?
Hmm.
Um,
And see,
and
that's the other thing: the lack of public transit.
I mean, yeah, and you think about what I just said in 2022, I'm waiting for them to finish a railway on the I-35 corridor, right? An
Hmm.
antiquated by many people's perception form of travel. Uh Yet it's not even modernized yet.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that would be the answer to me. I mean, I would imagine if it's Amtrak's. I don't know. I've never done a long distance Amtrak, so
I
yeah,
haven't either.
I guess it would all be coal powered or I mean diesel electric powered. I mean, not coal powered. This
I
isn't the
think diesel electric power.
yeah. So um, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's the thing is like, for example, I would love to come down there and see you guys, but I can't afford that. Like, genuinely, I can't afford to do that right now.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It really is. It really is. Like in and this is the summertime where everybody does their trips.
Yeah,
Everybody's doing their everybody's doing their vacations, their summer trips, going to places, and flights have been crazy, like you said. Their prices have gone up, as well as there's a lot of cancellations, and so I know I know people that instead of flying somewhere, they said, I just drive because I don't have to worry about my flight getting canceled. And then I'm having to try to see if I can find and book another flight in time.
sure, sure. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And then as gig workers too, you ask for more money in your gig situation because it costs more to travel, costs more to
Yep.
drive, but then they're feeling the same pinch. They can't pay you more, right? So
Yep.
it just affects everybody in its own way. I would think, yeah, driving, it just depends on what car you have, but that's the way to go. I still though see plenty of people driving their lifted pickups around
Hmm. Same,
here.
same.
Yeah,
Texas, we love our lifted pickups.
I know, man. I know. I love it when lifted trucks pull up to my lowered truck and they're just like right next to me as close as could be. I'm just like, what's up, man? Yep. I don't have the same crisis you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your gas mileage is terrible.
Yeah.
All that wonderful wind resistance.
Well, that's not the only crisis they're going through with a lifted pickup.
That is true. That is true.
But yeah, so anyway, I don't know. Not to be all doom and gloom on this episode, but we
Yeah.
hope it will turn around. Um, and definitely, the potential is there, for it to happen tomorrow, right?
Yep.
I think that is the positive that we have to take away from it. Um, but then, outside that, who knows? Who knows?
Yep.
We'll see. Everything will level off eventually, but until then, we just got to be strategic with it. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I think we had a great discussion on this. I'm glad we brought this topic up. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Um, Not really. I only had just this one little tidbit that I even thought of.
Yeah.
Um, with fuel prices the way that they are, I feel like we're getting close to the similar kind of thing that was going on in, I think, the 60s, right? The fuel crisis of,
The
I think it was the
60s.
70s, sorry.
Yeah.
Um, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
scary. So, I think I think just like as a closing tidbit, I think we just need to, like you said, um, plan as much as we can, and just uh, try and see what we can do, right?
Sure.
Whether it's because I feel like a lot of this now is getting closer to the point to where it's kind of in the hands of our politicians.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to try and do our best to hold them more accountable, especially because what just I think this week or last week there was a bill drafted up for price gouging, right? Um, and that is something that needs to go through, right? Because that would help stabilize some of the prices, um, or hopefully should help.
It would
Um,
help. Yeah, it would help, but it wouldn't fix all of our issues. It maybe lower
no,
it
it wouldn't. It
a
wouldn't.
little.
It would be a stopgap measure.
Yeah. Yeah. But it would lower it a little bit, right? Like
Yeah,
what do you think? Maybe 30, 40 cents, maybe.
yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, I could see it getting us back down to say like 350. Maybe
yeah,
something like that. Um,
it's a pretty big
but
difference.
Yeah, that would make a huge difference. I think that
Yeah.
really would. But it's stuff like that. It's bills like that that I think would be incredibly helpful to the consumer, or even say releasing some of the reserved oil that we have to help alleviate the prices. And hopefully, all of this stuff is stuff that can help everyone, because that's the other thing. It's the more that it's a weird part of the capitalistic society. The more that we pull back, the more problems we create
Mm.
at the same time. So it's a weird thing. It's a weird cycle.
Sure. What if they walk into the oil reserves and they found that somebody left the lid off and all of it is completely spoiled now?
That'd be a nightmare.
Oh man. Who left the refrigerator door open, man?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So no, who knows? Yeah, I think that I don't know. I don't know enough about how these reserves work.
Yeah.
Uh, Canada, for example, has a maple syrup reserve. Uh,
Hmm.
I think that they should let wide open.
Yeah, man.
But
Get those
but
maple syrup prices down.
well, yeah, I'm not even worried about that. I just want it to flow right in my mouth. Um, but yeah, I just think that there are steps that are being taken at a slower rate than maybe I would like to see.
Yep. Same.
Um, I don't pretend to know. Here's the thing: we only know like what the next step would be. I give any political leaders the benefit of the doubt with this. They have analysts that look at what the next five things would be from this one
Yeah.
decision, right?
Yeah.
So, for the most part, you're trying not to laugh.
No, no. No, you're right
No, what are you thinking, man? This
though.
is an honest policy podcast.
No, no, man. It's I was just laughing, man. I was just thinking like just I was just thinking like how
Go on.
no,
Yeah.
it's just I was thinking like for how ridiculous it is for like stuff that feels like no-brainer stuff isn't being implemented, and it should be. It's stuff that's affecting them as well, and yet it's not. But like you said, though, they have analysts who are looking 5 steps ahead.
Yeah.
What is the next effect of us doing this? What
Mhm.
happens after that, right? Because yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I don't know what would happen if, say, we opened up our oil reserves for a small point. What's the next step after that?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
I
what
don't know.
do we keep it open to where it expends everything, and then we now have to worry about that?
Yeah. Um, Not to make it continually political, but it was a little concerning when with the, I think it was baby formula shortage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the president claimed he was unaware how bad the problem truly was, even though all of his advisors said they had had several meetings on it well in advance.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
It's a problem.
it is a problem because that's just baby formula shortage. No offense to people who are trying to feed young babies. Uh, let's look at all the other stuff we got. um, anyway, I think we had a great discussion on this. I'm
Yeah.
glad we brought it up. And thank you all for being on the live stream, for jumping in with us and listening to us on the audio platforms. Please remember to leave us a rating and review and subscribe if you like us. And also, among the many other ways you can connect with us, they're all linked in the description of this audio episode if you're listening on the audio platform. But we're on Facebook, Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. And we have our website and we have an email. Email us at theketchupcast@gmail.com. That's theketchupcast@gmail.com. And let us know what your thoughts are
Mm-hmm.
on this episode, what has been trending in your world, or even just the topics we discussed. What's had you talking. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch up with you next week.